There is a common mistake around the term diet. We are used to referring to it in terms of either giving up certain types of food or imposing strict rules in order to lose weight, or even integrating a specific type of food. But if we retrace the etymology of the word diet, we will understand that the Greek origin is linked to a lifestyle, an everyday habit that does not mean giving up food, but actually means a constant exploration of the balance between food, healthy activities, and culture. This becomes clearer when we talk about the most famous and celebrated diet of all time, a daily pattern based on fruit and vegetables involving a specific group of countries, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Morocco, that is commonly called the Mediterranean diet. But what do we refer to when we talk about organic? This is the Organic Recipe, the podcast created by Made in Nature that explores the world of organic agriculture, discovering the stories, the research, and the people involved in this huge transformation of our habits. Red tomatoes, green salads, olive oil, fresh wine, all grown in a unique biosphere called Cilento, just south of Naples. These Italian products convinced the American physiologist Ansel Keys to settle and live in the small fishing town of Pollica for over 40 years. Coming to Italy and studying the lifestyle and the products used, he was the first to recognize a deep link between the traditional food habits and the longevity of the Italian people.
The history of Mediterranean diet, it's an history that is it's well known. It's something that Ansel Keys, this US medical doctor, physiologist, let's say, went to Cilento in the 60s, last century, and observed a lower prevalence of chronic non-communicable disease, in particular cardiovascular disease, respect to the surrounding areas. For example, respect to Naples, in which there was a different diet, but in particular, there was a strong difference among the south of Italy respect to the Northern European countries. It was the basis of the so-called 7-country studies, in which it was demonstrated, it was very pioneeristic and completely new in the medical scenarios at that time. It was demonstrated that the dietary pattern of the south part of Italy, that was typically a poor way of eating, mainly based on plant food, legumes. The presence of animal protein was very limited, and to some times a month, not a week. And this was coupled with working labor, meaning a kind of work that is energy that consume energy, but also is not Mediterranean diet was not observed only as a dietary pattern, but is let's say global lifestyles that include conviviality, include the use of local products, include a period of rest. It was, as I mentioned, it was a lifestyle approach more than a simple counting of calories. Good morning to everyone. My name is Laura Rossi. I am a senior researcher of the Italian Center for Food and Nutrition of the CREA Institute, that is the most important institution in Italy working in agriculture and food production at the national level.
This new nutritional structure, inspired by Ancel Keys' ideas and further developed by the World Health Organization in the 90s, is illustrated as a pyramid. Food is displayed in terms of quantity, frequency, and types. The highest point of the pyramid has red meat and sweets, the foods that you should eat in small quantities. While at the base, there are fruits, vegetables, olive oil, legumes, herbs, which are combined together with healthy group activities such as being physically active and sharing meals with others.
The animal source food are not absent. Eggs, milk, cheese, poultry, meat in general are present in the Mediterranean diet style, but not in large quantity and not frequently consumed. Their presence is important to cover the possible deficiencies that comes from a diet that is totally vegetable. Mediterranean diet is not a vegetarian diet. It's not a vegan diet, obviously. It's a diet in which the proportion of animal food and the proportion of plant food is in equilibrium to guarantee health and coverage of essential nutrients. In the Mediterranean diet are less represented sweets, dessert in general. Added sugar is almost not present in this kind of diet, and as mentioned, it is a lifestyle more than the sum of the calories. Means conviviality, means rest, means attention to the environment, means local production, means protection of biodiversity, means physical activity. We are talking of traditional of poor people that need to work the ground in order to have a product to eat, means high energetic and caloric expenditure to be compensated with food. That means high level of physical activity. Exactly the contrary of what we are facing now with the lifestyles that is sedentary and not physically active.
As we mentioned before, the Mediterranean diet must not be seen as a strict regime, but as an all-round lifestyle. The work of Ancel Keys really changed our way of seeing food and diets. His research and discoveries were so revolutionary that in 1961 he was awarded Time magazine's Man of the Year and was pictured on the front cover. His books have become a reference point for the development of nutritional studies. But most importantly, the Mediterranean diet has also become an inspiration for new dietary models all around the world, from Scandinavia to Japan.
More and more frequently, we consider it important not to talk anymore of Mediterranean diet, but we prefer Mediterranean dietary pattern. This is exactly the point. We identified the Mediterranean diet as the diet of the Mediterranean basin countries.
In 2013, the Mediterranean diet was recognized as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. This is because it concerns both a set of skills, knowledge, and traditions, together with a particular attention to harvesting, animal farming, and the conservation of biodiversity. There are many challenges and values which are similar to organic farming. In some ways, the original pattern of the Mediterranean diet can be considered as an ancestor of our current outlook on healthier and more natural foods.
In terms of sustainability, we already mentioned it is what is going to be studied now meaning the aspect of environmental protection of the dietary pattern, is something that is strongly requested at the international level for, let's say, obvious reasons. The impact of the food production on environment is very high, is very important. And the Mediterranean diet is fully demonstrated to be protective either for the health and for the planet, let's say, for the environment, as I mentioned. These aspects are strongly studied in this period, trying to combine the aspect of health protection with environmental protection. Organic food could be organic. Traditionally, Mediterranean diet was organic by nature. Was not organic in the sense that we have now. We say now as it is a kind of production that rely from the availability of the product on the ground, with a kind of production that requires less input respect any form of intense production. It is something that was traditionally similar to what we meant with organic idea.
So how can the Mediterranean diet, together with organic farming, change the way in which we eat?
In terms of future, what a nutritionist could consider important is to change the way of production in terms of what is called nutrition-sensitive production. What does it mean, nutrition-sensitive production or nutritional-sensitive agriculture? In this case, it seems more pertinent. The production should keep in mind what are the needs of the population in terms of nutrition. We need more plant food. We need more fruit and vegetables. We need more vegetables, proteins of vegetable source. We need all these. So the production should be taken into account that there are foods that need to be promoted and produced more, and food that need to be discouraged, not eliminated, but discouraged, that need to be produced less. Ideally, this changing of the production of the food composition that take into account the nutritional needs of the population, it is something that should be at least planned. I don't know if it is possible to achieve this aspect, but it is what should be considered.
In the next episode, we will follow the journey of Ansel Keys and his influence in other parts of the world. In recent years, Scandinavian countries have developed their own dietary pattern, deeply inspired by the Mediterranean one, called the New Nordic Diet. This is a huge step towards a more sustainable and healthier world, and towards a new culinary tradition. You've been listening to The Organic Recipe, the podcast brought to you by Made in Nature and produced by RP Circuiti, narrated by Eleanor Robinson and written by Francesco Pataccini. The sound director was Pasquale Cicciriello, and the supervision was by Lorenzo Pasquinelli with the help of Silvia Lesi. Made in Nature is a project funded by the European Union and CSO Italy. The project's aim is to promote the values of organic agriculture in Italy, France, Germany, and Denmark. Discover more about the project at madeinnature.org or visit our social networks. For narrative reasons, some interviews in the podcast have been dubbed from the mother tongue of the interviewee to English, with their consent.